Hi, this is video 3 in a 3-part mini series where we look at a specific situation that happened in my life recently, and we look at it from 3 different angles to gain as much learning from it as possible. Now, I'll make sure that I link somewhere above this video. Videos 1 and 2, I'll also link it in the description if you want to just search for it after this video. So in the first video, we looked at what happens when you witness something where someone else is uncomfortable. You witness somebody else having their boundaries violated. Now, it might be as severe as some kind of assault, or it could be a micro annoyance, but the other person is clearly uncomfortable. So what do you do in that situation? In video 2, we looked at what happens if you're the person who feels awkward, like somebody else talked to you or touched you or interacted with you in a way that you're like I wish I could enforce a boundary, but I don't know how to do that. So we looked at that in video 2. And then in video 3, we're going to talk about what you can do as a conscious entrepreneur or a human who just wants to be a good human on the planet, who's kind and conscious in the way they interact with others. We're going to look at what you can do both to minimize the chances of this happening, of you making somebody else feel awkward, of you violating somebody else's boundary accidentally, and also, if it does happen, what you can do to remedy it. Okay, so mini backstory. By the way, if we haven't met, I'm Carolyn Southwell. This channel is all about helping to empower you to be the most conscious, aligned, aware, loving version of yourself. And a lot of people who follow my work are people who do similar work to myself, where we're supporting others to do the same. And that could be as an accountant, it could be as a space holder, healer, facilitator of healing. It could be as a human design coach. It could be as an EFT practitioner, or it could be as a person who teaches people about how to interact with animals, right? But you are really determined to be your most authentic, aligned self. And in the process of interacting with your clients or customers, you are supporting them to also do the same somehow. So the backstory. Very recently, I had a young couple who's in my extended family who bought a house for the first time. And they were super excited, and it was very cute. And 2 young adults. And I heard them sharing that they felt very awkward that their real estate agent had taken a video of them on the day that they moved in. And they didn't know, they didn't give permission. And then that video was all over social media. And they felt gross about it. And they didn't feel like they could do anything about it. They didn't feel like they could say anything. So we've already talked about the different aspects of this situation from 2 different contexts. So in this video, if you want to hear those other aspects of me witnessing that and what I did, and if you're in that kind of situation where you feel that sort of you're the one feeling awkward, then look at those other videos. But in this video, I'm just going to talk about you as the potential perpetrator, you as the one who accidentally violates somebody else's boundary, right? Now, in the coaching world, I have seen so much of this behavior that I actually find it disgusting. And actually, I can still tell that I'm a little bit triggered about that. So let's just own that. There is a lot of behavior still in the coaching, tapping, healing, mentoring, blah, blah, blah world of, spiritual healing, personal development, of calling out and naming clients as part of the business model, as part of the promotion, as part of the marketing. It just, see this face, it's like, ugh, yuck. The thing we have to realize as business owners, and you can apply this if you're, you can think about it in the context if you're a teacher or a parent or a caregiver in any kind of role where you interact with another human being, where sometimes you are in a position of power over somebody who in that situation is more vulnerable just because of the nature of the interaction. This will apply to you too. So just think about how to apply that. But if you're running, let's say, a coaching business of any description, you call it anything, and you have clients come to you and pay you money. They're coming to you because they have a problem they haven't worked out how to solve on their own. And some part of that problem will make them feel uncomfortable to reveal. We are being paid to hold some version of safe space and to keep a level that is appropriate for the kind of work, for the kind of interaction, a level of confidentiality, right? So that that person feels safe to go blah about whatever is stressing them out, and we can tap on it with them. We can use the human design chart to coach them. We can insert whatever it is that you do to help humans. That person needs to feel safe in order to get the outcome that they want. If they're ever going to be somebody who spontaneously decides to write their own testimonial or write a positive review about their interaction that's genuine, that comes out of their own mouth or this typed by their own fingers, that's going to happen because they felt so safe and so held by you. That is great marketing, not us, highlighting a client. So-and-so just, bought into this high ticket program. They're great. Be like them. It's disgusting. Like, I can feel the disgust. Like, it just makes me want to tap of like, there's too much of that behavior. And I think that one of the things that is done so much better in the space of therapists and psychologists is that they are legally bound to client confidentiality. And that is not the case if you do the sort of work that maybe you do and that I do, right? There's nothing legally that requires me to, but am I going to? Do I? Fuck yes, absolutely. Because I know that the client is only really going to heal and have the outcome and that they want if they feel truly safe. So I'm very particular about finding ways to like reinforce stronger and stronger sense of safety for my clients. When there is something within a client session that I share or a question that a client asks and I'm like, oh man, that would make really good content, I am deliberately vague about any identifiers. So I'm like, if you ever ask this question, or maybe you might be a client that asked this question, and here's how I answered it in session today, right? So that there is no, and my ideal, sometimes I'm able to do this, my ideal is that the client themselves doesn't even work out that I'm talking about them, because it's not about the person, it's about the lesson, right? So even when I'm creating content, so often in my client sessions, I'll be like, I'll say something and I'm like, oh man, like 1,000 other people need to hear this, not just that person. And so I'll think about how to pull the lesson out and reteach it solo to you through the camera, so that even if somebody had an entire list of my clients, which they could never get, they still couldn't work out which one of the clients that I was talking about, right? So that's one of the ways that I do this. The other way I do this is I don't brag about who I have as clients. You'll never know how many public figures I have as clients. I'm never going to brag about this. If they put all over their social media that they're working with me, that's their business. But you're never going to know who they are unless you specifically have recommended that client to me, and then they tell you, right? Again, but that puts them in a position of power. Now, when it comes to me sharing testimonials of things that my clients have said, here is the way I go about it. Again, in case you're a client of mine, this is how I work with testimonials these days. Sometimes a client will say something in a session, usually at the end, when they're like very grateful, beautifully, sometimes moved to tears. And I'm like, oh, bless, like, I'm so grateful that I get to do this work. And they might say something that as I hear it, not only am I grateful that I get to do this level of work, but I'm like, that would be really helpful for other people to know, because there's something about the way they've described it that helps explain what my work is like, what it's like to be a client of mine. And so sometimes I will say, hey, I think that would really help other people. Do you mind just dropping into an email what you just said for me to use as a client testimonial? Would you be okay with that? Does that feel okay with you? And if it does, how do you want to sign off that testimonial? Do you just want a first name and a country? Do you want a full name and a website so people can find you, right? I give people options. I don't need every testimonial to have a photo and I have a full-length bio. If somebody wants to say AF Melbourne, great. You're never going to know who that is, right? So that's one way I'll do it. Sometimes people will say really kind things in emails to me. And again, I'll just reply to the email and go, man, that would be an amazing testimonial. Do you mind if I share it as that? And if so, can I, if they've said something this long, can I pull out a direct quote? And so I will ask permission, and I'm always, this is really important, I'm always leaving space for the person to say no. I really want it to be an option for people to say no to me, because we can't really create a safe space with people if we're just really, really good at selling to them. And we make it really easy to say yes, but we make it really hard to say no. It's only a true yes if the person can actually say no. Please really get that. It's only a yes, a true yes, if a person feels safe to say no. Now, I did promise that in this video I would talk about what happens if you mess it up. I have messed it up at times in the last decade of coaching. I absolutely have had times when I've messed it up. I have taken examples from people who I thought knew better than me, even though my body was like telling me it wasn't great. And I thought, well, that's what you have to do. People, listen to your body. It knows way more than everyone else. If your body says no to something I say, man, listen to your body over me. Please, please listen to your body. So if you muck it up, and you will, if you're like learning and growing and human, hi human, then take some time to repair. So at times when I've messed things up, if I had a big emotional reaction to messing things up, because maybe a client sends me an email and says, oh, this thing made me feel uncomfortable, or I don't like that you did this thing, right? And it hasn't happened for a while, since I have done more and more deep nervous system work. However, I am open to the idea that it could still happen from time to time. But I can think of a situation where a client replied to me very angry a few years ago and said, you had no right to say that, over about an A4 page of like very angry reply. And I took a bit of time to deal with how I was feeling emotionally. I tapped on how I felt, and I made sure that I didn't send my reply email until I felt sufficiently calm and that I could really take on board the criticism and the feedback that was relevant to me in the situation. Now, sometimes people will criticize and give us feedback that is so much about them and it's not about us. We have to become good at discerning which bits we need to take responsibility for and which bits are their stuff. There is too much of people doing too much of one or too much of the other. There is, a huge amount of shaming in, so-called conscious money business growth programs, where the coach is not taking anywhere near enough responsibility and they're putting it all back on the client. Please don't do that. Please, when you receive criticism or feedback, look at which parts of these are mine to own. Yes, it's fucking uncomfortable. Do it anyway. If you want to be a really good coach, healer, therapist, mentor, blah, 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 you have to look at the shit that is yours to own. And Then there are also a whole camp of people who, as soon as they receive criticism or feedback from somebody, they take it all on. Like it's all their fault. In that case, just do a lot of tapping, and over time you'll get better and better at working out, oh, this bit's theirs. That has nothing to do with me. Oh, but this bit, they nailed it there. I need to do that bit better if I'm determined to be a really good space holder by any name. So taking some time, if I think back to this client, I took some time to own how I felt, the parts of me that wanted to defend, the parts of me that felt ashamed, the parts of me that, you know, wanted to chuck it all back on this person. And I tapped until I could see their point of view. And then I'm like, okay, well, I really would have liked this person to be able to see the thing that I was talking about, but they just couldn't. So I had overstepped the mark. By the way, if you're a projector and you're listening to this, this can happen. Super important. As projectors, this could be its whole own other video. And I promise to everyone else, I'll tie this back around in a minute. But as projectors, we can see really deeply into people, really deeply. And I have some clients who I really can only give them a teeny tiny surface layer bit. And then if they work with me for long enough, I can go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. There's only 1 or 2 clients that I have been working with over the last couple of years who we've done such a depth of work that I can almost say anything to them. Like, okay, you ready? I'm going to tell you something, you're going to hate me, but are you ready? And they love me for it, right? Because they trust me implicitly and they're willing to get really, really uncomfortable and look at really ugly stuff. But a lot of people aren't. And this is a person who I had misjudged how deep I could take them. And because I had misjudged how the level of insight I could share with this person, for them, they felt like that was a boundary that had been violated and they were super angry. And it's good. Good on them for communicating and expressing how they were feeling and putting me back in my place, because I learned a lot about this thing of how deep I can go as a projector. And I tell you, every single client is different, and every client is different from one session to the next. So sometimes, even when you're trying your best, as I was that day, you'll still mess it up. And that's okay. You're human. If you feel bad, tap until you feel better, right? If you feel like, oh man, I messed it up and I was trying really hard, tap. Even though I messed it up. I guess I'm human after all. Yeah? So do take the time if you mess it up, when you mess it up, to get yourself as calm as possible so that you can really discover what is theirs, what is yours to own, what is theirs to own, and so that you can reply and repair that, there's a word, you could repair the situation. Even if you don't think that the client is ever going to come back and do more work with you, doesn't matter. You still have an opportunity to learn from it and repair it. And so take the time to do that. Tap, come to a more empowered place yourself, come to a calmer place, and then respond the best way that you know how with everything that you know. Now, again, if you don't know how to tap, I can teach you. It's super simple. And I tailor it based on you and how you show up and your life and your human design and how much time you've got and all your preferences and all those things. So that's really easy. I'll put a link in the description below this video. I will see you in the next one.